it's April from April's Home, and today I'm here to share with you 4 different low-carb stuffed bell pepper recipes. We'll go ahead and start with my first one here. This is a classic style stuffed bell pepper, a hamburger stuffed bell pepper, but of course we're doing it low carb. So instead of regular rice, we are using riced cauliflower. And I'm going to keep the seasonings really simple. I've got a pound of hamburger here that I'm going to thaw out and completely cook through. I'm going to brown that up and cook that through. I'll season it with a little bit of minced onion, salt, and pepper. And when it is all cooked, I'm going to go ahead and add some cheese and cauliflower rice. I'll also be cooking up this riced cauliflower. This is a steamable bag, so I'm just going to go ahead and steam it according to package directions. You can also cook it according to package directions without the microwave as well, if that's what you prefer. But I'm just going to go ahead and cook that up in the microwave, and then we will assemble the filling. While I'm cooking up the hamburger, I'm also going to be prepping the bell peppers here. I've got 4 bell peppers. I'm going to take off the top and clean out the insides, get them all nice and cleaned. And I'm going to go ahead and put them in a baking tray with a little bit of water and start them cooking. I'm going to go ahead and get these prepped, and I'll come back and share with you the next step. Okay, my bell peppers are prepped and ready to go. I've cut off the top, as you can see here, and used a spoon to scrape out the seeds and things from the inside. I've given them a good rinse and a clean before I cut them open, as well as after, just to get all the seeds out. Put the tiniest bit of water in the bottom of this pie dish here, and I've preheated my oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. While I'm finishing up the filling, I'm going to go ahead and let these start cooking so that they kind of have a head start. I really like my bell peppers to be cooked all the way through, but the filling only needs a little while to cook, so I like to give my bell peppers a head start. Again, I'm going to go ahead and cook these for about 15 to 20 minutes. I just want them to start steaming up and softening up here, so I'm going to go ahead and get these in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we'll continue working on our filling. I've got our filling cooking away. You can see it needs a little bit more cook time here. There's a little bit of pink still there. I do like to make sure it's thoroughly browned and cooked all the way through, but I thought I'd pull it off the heat so that you can see how I add the seasoning here. I'm just going to go ahead and eye it here, just sprinkle in probably about a teaspoon, a rounded teaspoon of the dried minced onion, and salt and pepper to taste. Just like so. So I'm going to go ahead and get this back on the heat and finish cooking this. My cauliflower is all done steaming. When it is all done steaming, I'm going to go ahead and drain this hamburger, and then we'll go ahead and assemble the filling. My hamburger is done being cooked, and my riced cauliflower is steamed. What I'll do to make my filling is empty my riced cauliflower into the hamburger mixture here and get that all stirred together. Then I will add in about a cup of shredded cheese here. I'm using Mexican shredded cheddar cheese today. You can use cheddar jack or cheddar if you'd like. I'm going to get that all mixed together, and then when the bell peppers have pre-cooked enough, I'll take them out of the oven and get them filled up with our filling. I've also brought out some Primal Kitchen ketchup here. This is what we'll use to go ahead and top our stuffed bell peppers. I like to give my classic stuffed bell peppers a topping of ketchup. This is a Primal Kitchen ketchup, so it will keep the recipe low carb. So I'm going to go ahead now and get my cauliflower and cheese into the pan here and get everything stirred together. I have mixed together the cauliflower, rice, and hamburger, and now I'm going to go ahead and add a generous cup of shredded cheese, and now I'll go ahead and mix this all together and set it aside until the bell peppers are ready to fill. Okay, my bell peppers have been cooking in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 to 20 minutes here. You can see they're definitely starting to get steamed and cooked through. They do have a little water in the bottom of them. I like to use a pair of tongs to dump that water out. I just take my tongs like so and tip the bell pepper out to put the water back in the bottom there so that the filling won't get watery. So I'll do that to each of my bell peppers here, and then I will divide up the filling here in between each of the 4 bell peppers and get them nice and stuffed. We'll top each one with some of my Primal Kitchen ketchup, as well as another little sprinkle of cheese. Each of my bell peppers is stuffed, and now I'm going to go ahead and top it with a little bit of ketchup and shredded cheese. And my bell peppers are stuffed and ready to go back in the oven. The oven is still heated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm just going to go ahead and cook these until the bell peppers are finished cooking and the filling is hot and bubbly and the cheese is melted. It will probably take about 15 to 20 more minutes depending on the size of your bell peppers and how hot your oven is. I'll let you know how long they took to cook in my oven when they're done, and then we'll give them a try. Here are my classic style low-carb stuffed bell peppers out of the oven. They took about 20 minutes to cook through. You can see they are nice and hot and cooked through, and I'm definitely looking forward to having these for dinner tonight. This is a really easy low-carb recipe. They are delicious. The filling is pretty much the same as my cheeseburger cauliflower rice casserole. I'm a big fan of that casserole as well. So this is a great filling for a classic style low-carb stuffed bell pepper. I'm going to go ahead and get one on a plate and give this a try. Here I've got one on my plate. I will be serving this tonight with a side salad. I'm going to go ahead and get a try right now here. And a little bit of the bell pepper with the filling. And that has a really wonderful flavor. I love the Primal Kitchen ketchup on the top. It gives it just a little bit of zing. And the filling is delicious with all of the hamburger, cheese, and cauliflower rice along with the bell pepper. So that was my low-carb, classic-style stuffed bell pepper. And now I'll go ahead and share with you 3 more low-carb stuffed bell pepper recipes. For my next stuffed bell pepper recipe, I will be making a low-carb taco stuffed bell pepper. So I'm going to go ahead and get these bell peppers cut open, cleaned up and cut open and cooking. I'm going to go ahead and start cooking them in the oven. I will be cleaning these out and I'll show you what they look like as I get them prepared. I think I'm going to cut these in half, kind of more like a boat, just so we have more room for all of our filling and more servings. Sometimes I like to fill them upright like this, and other times in half, more like a boat. So I'll go ahead and get these prepped and in the pan. I'll show you what they look like before I get them in the oven. I'm going to go ahead and preheat my oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and then I'll get the rest of the ingredients assembled. My peppers are all prepped. I've cleaned them out and cut them in half and scooped out the seeds and lined them up here in this baking pan here. And I've added about a cup or a half a cup of water to the bottom of the pan. It helps to steam the bell peppers and helps them to cook up nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and get this put in a 400-degree oven so that the peppers can start cooking while I get all the rest of the ingredients assembled. Here are all of my ingredients for my taco stuffed bell peppers. I've got some riced cauliflower that I will go ahead and cook according to package directions. I'll just go ahead and cook these in the microwave. This is a steamable bag. If you don't have steamable cauliflower rice, just cook it up according to the package directions. I will also be warming up this pound of taco meat. The other day when I was prepping my delicious sweet potato nacho fry recipe that you will see in another video, I made enough for this recipe as well. I love to do that with taco meat. If I know I'm going to have a couple recipes where I'll be using taco meat, I just make up a big batch. So this is about a pound of hamburger seasoned with a mild taco seasoning packet. I've also got half a can of drained corn, half a can of drained and rinsed black beans, half a bunch of chopped green onions here. I've got some Mexican style cheese. I'll probably use about a cup of this. At the end, I will be topping it with sour cream. I'll also be grabbing some salsa to top these with and some black olives. So I will get those after I get everything else mixed up. I'm going to go ahead and warm this up, cook this up, and then I will start mixing these ingredients together. And then we will take the bell peppers out of the oven when they're partially cooked. We'll get them filled up and cooked the rest of the way. Into the mixing bowl, I have placed my 1 pound of cooked hamburger that I have again seasoned with taco seasoning. I pre-cooked this, but I went ahead and reheated it. I've gone ahead and cooked up my riced cauliflower. I'm going to go ahead now and empty it into the bowl here with this hamburger. And then I'll stir that together and add the rest of the ingredients. My taco meat and cooked cauliflower rice are stirred together in this bowl. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a cup of Mexican style shredded cheese. Colby Jack also would work well, and I'm sure even just basic cheddar cheese or whatever cheese is your favorite would work great in this meal as well. So I'm going to stir in the 1 cup of shredded Mexican cheese, the half a can of drained and rinsed black beans. And now I'm going to go ahead and stir this mixture together. So that is the filling for our stuffed bell peppers. Again, we will top it with the green onions, sour cream, and drained sliced black olives. And once I'm done filling these, I will also top them with a little bit of salsa as well as some more Mexican style cheese. This is a lot of mixture here, and I'm only filling 6 halves of bell peppers. So if we have leftovers, I will just go ahead and bake this up in a small casserole dish. And that will be delicious as well. So I'm going to go ahead now and pull out the bell peppers and see how they're doing. The bell peppers have a really nice start to cooking, and they do get a little steam water in them, so I'm using some tongs to dump out any water that's inside of them before I fill them. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to each one, and then I will go ahead and fill each of these halves with a nice big scoop of the filling. I will go ahead and press that in. I'll come back and show you that before I get it topped with salsa. And I thought I would point out as I was filling this that I do like to fill it with a spoon here and then use the back of the spoon to really press it in there, and I will get a little bit more and have a nice rounded out stuffed bell pepper. All of our bell peppers are nice and stuffed. I've really pressed in a lot of the topping in there. So now I'm going to go ahead and scoop some salsa on the top of each one to keep the moisture locked in, and then I'll go ahead and put that in the oven. After it cooks for about 20 minutes or so, I will check to see how well done the peppers are getting, and then I'll top it with a little layer of cheese. Let that cheese melt and take it out. So I will go ahead now and get these topped with salsa. So here they are, topped with salsa. That was just the paste, chunky, mild salsa. You can use whatever salsa is your favorite. I just put a small spoonful and then spread it over the top so that the filling would stay nice and moist. Now I'm going to go ahead and return this to my 400-degree oven to cook for about 20 minutes or so. And again, when these are fully cooked, I will go ahead and top each of these with cheese and return them to the oven for a few minutes more to melt the cheese. So I'll be back to show you the next step. My low-carb taco stuffed bell peppers are done cooking. They're cooked through. I've taken them out of the oven, and now I'm going to go ahead and top each one with some shredded Mexican-style cheese. I'm going to go ahead and pop them back into the oven for about 2 to 4 minutes until the cheese melts. Then we'll go ahead and get these plated up and topped with sour cream, green onions, sliced black olives. I've also got some salsa con queso on the side just in case we want that, and extra salsa. The cheese has melted up nicely. It only took 2 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and transfer one to the serving plate and get them topped and ready to serve. And here is what one looks like, all ready to be served here. I've put a nice little dollop of sour cream on the top and sprinkled it with some chopped green onions and sliced olives. That is how I'm going to be enjoying mine tonight. And I've also set out some salsa con queso in case we'd like some on the side of this. There are the green onions and sliced olives, and I've also set out the salsa and sour cream just in case we need a little bit more. But that is my taco stuffed bell pepper here, my low-carb stuffed bell pepper with cauliflower rice instead of regular rice. So now I'm going to go ahead and give this a try. I'm just going to go ahead and try a little bit of the filling here. Okay. And that is really delicious. I love all the flavors in there. I love the corn and the black beans along with the green onions and sour cream and olives with the delicious taco meat and cauliflower rice and cheese. And I think that this is a great low-carb version of a stuffed bell pepper. I hope you give this recipe a try. Now I'll go ahead and share with you another low-carb stuffed bell pepper recipe. Here is my next stuffed bell pepper recipe. This is a twist on a lasagna. So a lasagna stuffed bell pepper. You will need 3 to 4 bell peppers, however many you want to make. You can just increase the recipe. I'm going to cut these 3 in half and fill them like boats rather than an upright bell pepper. I'm going to go ahead here in a minute and get these all cut in half and cleaned out, and I'm going to lay them in a greased baking dish here and put a little bit of water in the bottom and get those cooking while I cook up the filling. I'm going to cook a pound of hamburger here, and I'm going to mix that in with some spaghetti sauce. I'll let you know how much I decide to use. I'm not sure if I want to use an entire jar. I don't want the filling to be too moist. And then for the ricotta cheese filling here, I'm going to mix some ricotta cheese with an egg and mozzarella and some Parmesan. So that is what we'll need. I'll also probably grab out some parsley to add into the ricotta cheese mixture as well. So I'm going to go ahead now and get my meat cooked up and my bell peppers prepped and in the oven to start pre-cooking. And then I'll come back and share with you how I assemble my lasagna stuffed bell peppers. My bell peppers are prepped and in a baking dish here. I've put just a little tiny bit of water, like a half a cup of water in the bottom, to help steam these up. I'm going to go ahead and get these in a 400-degree preheated oven while I finish cooking up my hamburger and mixing up my ricotta cheese filling. So I'm going to go ahead now and get these in the oven and come back and share with you the next step. To make the cheese filling for our lasagna stuffed bell peppers, you will need a cup of ricotta cheese. I'm going to go ahead and put a cup of ricotta cheese in this bowl and mix it with 1 egg and some parsley flakes. I'm just going to eye it on the parsley flakes, probably like half a teaspoon or so. So here's the ricotta, the egg, and the parsley. Again, that's just 1 cup of ricotta there and a little bit of parsley and an egg, and I'm going to get that all stirred up, and then I'm going to stir in about 3/4 of a cup of mozzarella cheese. Okay, now I'm stirring in my 3/4 cup of mozzarella cheese, shredded mozzarella, and next I'll go ahead and add a 1/4 cup of shredded Parmesan. If you don't have the fresh grated Parmesan, you can use the powdered Parmesan as well. So I'm going to get that all stirred together. So that is all stirred together, and that is our cheese mixture ready to go. I'm going to go ahead now and finish up the meat sauce. My meat sauce is ready as well. I have cooked and drained my 1 pound of hamburger, and I've added about half a jar of my Barilla tomato and basil pasta sauce. You can add whichever pasta sauce is your favorite. Again, I only did half a jar of that. This is a 24-ounce jar because I don't want the meat filling to be too moist, because I don't want the meat layer to be too saucy, so that it will not hold its shape in the stuffed bell pepper. So now I've got my meat layer and my cheese layer ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and let my bell peppers continue pre-cooking for about 15 more minutes or so until they are starting to be nice and soft. Then I'll pull them out of the oven and we'll go ahead and fill them up with our lasagna mixture. You will also need a little bit more mozzarella and Parmesan cheese to sprinkle among the layers. And I'm going to go ahead and save out this pasta sauce. I will probably add a small teaspoon to the top of each bell pepper to keep all the moisture locked in. And if I have leftover pasta sauce, I will put that in the fridge and work that into a future recipe. My bell peppers have been pre-cooking for about 20 to 25 minutes at 400 degrees. I've also used a pair of tongs to lift each one. Sometimes when they are steaming, they get a little bit of water on the inside, and I want to drain that out before I fill them. So now I'm going to go ahead and fill my bell peppers here, my lasagna stuffed bell peppers. I'm going to start by putting a layer of meat sauce in the bottom of each one. So I'll do that first. I'll get a bottom layer of meat sauce in each bell pepper here. And then after that, we'll go ahead and top that with the cheese layer, then another meat layer, then another cheese layer, a little bit of sauce, and then a sprinkle of Parmesan and mozzarella. So I'm going to go ahead now and get my first layer of meat sauce in each of these bell peppers. Each bell pepper is filled with its first layer of hamburger mixture. This is the hamburger with pasta sauce. And I've divided about half the mixture into these 6 bell peppers here. So you'll just want to use half of your meat mixture to fill it so that you have plenty for the next layer. And now I'm going to go ahead and put a layer of cheese on each one and kind of spread that out. And then I'll come back, show you what that looks like. Once the first cheese layer's on, then we'll come back and put a second layer of meat. Okay, so I've spread out the cheese mixture on each one of these bell peppers, and I've started with this one here to add my next layer of hamburger mixture to the top of the cheese layer. So I'm going to go ahead and divide up the rest of my meat sauce into these 6 bell peppers and then spread out that meat, and then we'll add another layer of cheese topping. Okay, so I have divided up the last half of the meat mixture and placed it on the first layer of cheese. So now we have meat, cheese, and meat, and now we're going to go ahead and put another scoop of cheese here, the ricotta cheese filling, on each one, and then spread that out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now for the rest of these bell peppers here and get that cheese sauce spread out. So we have the last of the cheese mixture here, and now I'm going to go ahead and top each one with a small little layer of pasta sauce here, just like so. Then I'll use the back of the spoon to lightly spread this out here. Once I get that spread out on all 6, I'll come back and show you what that looks like before we add our final topping. So I'm going to go ahead and get the sauce on each one of these, and then we can add a final layer of shredded mozzarella and Parmesan. So I've gone ahead and spread out a thin layer of pasta sauce over the top of the final cheese layer of each of these stuffed bell peppers. And now I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle on the top of each one a little tiny bit of mozzarella cheese and a little tiny bit of Parmesan. Just a small amount here, you can see, just to top the top of the stuffed bell pepper with. I don't want a ton of the Parmesan, just enough to add a little bit of that good salty flavor of the Parmesan cheese. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these stuffed bell peppers topped, and then we'll get them back into the oven. Again, my oven is preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. My lasagna stuffed bell peppers are ready to go back into the oven and continue cooking. I am looking for the bell pepper to be thoroughly cooked all the way through, and for the ricotta cheese sauce to be firmed up a little bit and nice and bubbly hot and cooked through. I'm going to go ahead and check these after about 15 minutes or so and make sure that the top layer of cheese isn't getting overly dark. If it does start getting too dark, I will cover it lightly with a layer of foil while it continues cooking. But I will let you know if I have to cover that with foil or not, and I'll let you know how long this takes to cook at 400 degrees in my oven. My lasagna stuffed bell peppers are out of the oven. I baked them for 35 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see the tops are nice and browned and melted, and everything is cooked through. This did put a lot of water out. A lot of water was released from the sauces and the bell peppers and the cheese sauce and things like that. So there is a bit of liquid you can see down here in the bottom. So I'll want to be sure and scoop these out with a slotted spoon. I'm going to go ahead now and serve one of these up and give it a try. Here is my lasagna stuffed bell pepper all served up. I'm just going to keep this simple tonight for dinner. You could serve this alongside of a side salad. I think that that would be delicious. But tonight it's just me and my husband, and we're going to keep it simple and just do a dinner here in a bowl. It's got veggies and meat and everything all in one. So now I'll go ahead and try a bite and let you know how it turned out. Got a little bit of cheese and meat and bell pepper there. Definitely going to have to cool this down. It is piping hot, but now I'll go ahead and give this a try. And that was delicious. I love the lasagna flavor. This is a wonderful low carb way to enjoy lasagna here. Because there's no pasta in this dish, this is a very nice low carb meal here. I love the bell pepper flavor paired with the lasagna flavor, and definitely a new favorite way for me to enjoy a low carb lasagna meal. So that is my recipe for lasagna stuffed bell peppers, a delicious low carb stuffed bell pepper recipe, and I hope you give this one a try. And next I'll share with you my last stuffed bell pepper recipe, a hot chicken salad stuffed bell pepper. For my last low-carb stuffed bell pepper, we're going to use a different protein this time. We're not going to use hamburger like we did for our last three. We're going to finish these low-carb recipes up with a low-carb chicken salad stuffed bell pepper. In my 4 tuna recipes, I made a delicious tuna stuffed bell pepper that was really good. And I'm going to do something similar today with chicken, canned chicken here. So I've got 2 cans of the chunk chicken breast from Costco here. This is a 12.5 ounce can. I'm going to drain those and get those in a bowl. And I'm going to go ahead and chop up some celery. I'm going to take a look. I may not use the whole bunch. I'll have to take a look. Probably about 4 or 5 stalks here. I want to go ahead and chop up this onion. I'll need some cheese, as well as some mayonnaise, salt, pepper, and onion powder. I'm going to go ahead and take the tops off of these bell peppers and scoop out the inside, get them thoroughly cleaned, and pre-cooking in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm going to go ahead and get all of my veggies prepped, and I'm going to come back and share with you my last low-carb stuffed bell pepper recipe, a hot chicken salad stuffed bell pepper. My bell peppers are prepped. Rather than doing both, I just went ahead and did individual bell peppers. We'll get those nice and stuffed. We'll stand them upright here in this pie pan with a little bit of water in the bottom. And again, I'll get these pre-cooking at 400 for about 15 to 20 minutes while I finish making the filling. I have my chicken drained and put into a bowl here. Both cans have been drained and put into a bowl. I've used my fork here to break up the chicken a bit, and I'll do that a little bit more as we stir things together. I have cut up half a bunch of the celery and half of the large red onion. You can do this to taste if you like a little bit more. You can add a little bit more. Also, onions vary in size pretty greatly. So you can see here roughly how much I have. Again, about half of a large onion or a whole small red onion and half a bunch of celery. I chopped them not too small, but also not too big, sort of smaller sized chunks here. So I'm going to go ahead and empty that into the chicken here. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add half a cup of mayo. I'm starting with a half a cup, but I will probably add more here. I'll let you know how much I add. Just don't want it to be too wet or too dry. So I'm going to start with half a cup of mayo. Then we'll add our salt, pepper, and onion powder. I've added my half cup of mayo. I'm adding just a few dashes of onion powder. I'm going to be pretty generous with the pepper. I love pepper in chicken salad. And I will add a little bit of salt, not too much. Sometimes I feel like canned chicken has plenty of salt in it, but just a little bit for flavor. Now I'm going to go ahead and get this all mixed together. We'll see if it needs more mayo, and then after that we'll be adding our shredded cheese. I've mixed this all together, and I went ahead and I've added one more teaspoon, a rounded teaspoon of mayo here. I'm going to go ahead and mix that in. Otherwise, it looks great, and then I'll be adding my cheese. I've got a cup of shredded cheese here. I'm using the Mexican shredded cheese. That's one of my favorite blends. I also like cheddar jack in this, and you could use shredded cheddar. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that in. We'll get this all mixed together, and when our bell peppers are finished cooking, we'll bring them out and get them filled up. So I'm going to go ahead and get this all stirred up, and when our bell peppers are ready, we'll get those stuffed and back into the oven. Okay, my bell peppers are out of the oven. They have been pre-cooking very nicely here for about 15 minutes. You can see they're definitely starting to soften up. I've got my mixture all mixed up, and I'm going to fill each one nice and full. And then we'll go ahead and sprinkle a little cheese on top and get them returned to the oven for about 20 more minutes until the filling is nice and hot. I have stuffed all 4 bell peppers nice and full. These were big bell peppers, so they'll definitely make nice big servings here. I do have a little bit of filling left, which I will go ahead and set aside. I could eat this for lunch if I wanted to, or add it to some salad. Now I'll go ahead and top the bell peppers with a little sprinkling of cheese and return them to the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes until they're cooked through and the filling is nice and hot. The bell peppers are topped with cheese, and now I'll return these peppers to my 400-degree oven and cook them for about 20 more minutes. I'll let you know how long it takes to cook these in my oven, and when they're cooked, I look forward to giving these a try. My low-carb chicken salad stuffed bell peppers are out of the oven. They took about 20 minutes to cook through. You can see they are nice and hot. The cheese is melted and nice and golden brown. They did tip over a little bit in this pan here. It probably would have been better to use a slightly smaller pan so that they stayed upright, but I was able to prop them back up, and they are just fine. So definitely watch for that. Use a good size pan, or just prop them on the sides a little bit differently. I'm going to go ahead now and serve one of these up for my dinner tonight and give it a try. So I've served one up. I'm going to go ahead and cut a piece and give it a try. So I've got a little bite here with the bell pepper as well as some of the chicken salad filling, and that is really delicious. So that is my last recipe for my low-carb stuffed bell peppers. We had our classic style stuffed bell pepper, a taco style stuffed bell pepper, a lasagna style stuffed bell pepper, and then we finished off with delicious chicken salad stuffed bell pepper. You can definitely be creative with different low-carb fillings for stuffed bell peppers. These are definitely wonderful low-carb dinner recipes, and I hope you enjoyed hearing all these different low-carb stuffed bell pepper recipes, and I hope you give them a try. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.